Today I want to talk about this tablet that I mounted to the wall. I want to talk about the hardware, the software, and the mount itself. And I'll talk about what I actually chose for all of those, but I'll also talk about other options so that if you decide to do this, you're better informed. Here we go. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is what I have going on here. This is what's called fully Kiosk Browser. It's running on a Fire HD 10, running at 1920 by 1200 resolution. The resolution was important to me because it means that I can see more data on here. If I'm on a data screen like the system monitor where I've got a lot of things going on, it allows me to see more on this panel. It's also why I chose a 10-inch panel. It makes it very easy to see. The things that this panel does for me is it gives me very quick data so that when I walk up to it, I can see things like what the house temperatures are in each of the rooms. I can see what the humidity is. I can also see things like what the time is for if I were to leave for work right now, what my travel time is, or it's like common destinations. The other thing this does for me is it controls my house in a more intuitive way. For instance, if I want to watch a movie, there's actually a couple different light switches I would normally have to run around to and set. For instance, I would want my kitchen lights to be dim because this is the back of my theater area. The front of my theater area, I'd want them to be very dim, but these pendants here, I would want to be to a certain level so that if I want to grab a snack or if I have to, take a break or whatever, I've got a light there that I can actually use to guide me. So here I've got a movie mode, and when I hit that with one touch, you see all of those lights change at the same time. I didn't have to run around and hit a bunch of switches. This also gives me a very intuitive interface so that if I have a friend over, they can control my house as well. If I have a entertainment mode, I can hit that and have all the lights turn on. Before I go to bed each night, I can hit downstairs off and have all of the lights, not only there, but in other rooms downstairs turn off. I can also control other devices such as TVs and have them turn off as well. The other thing this panel does for me is it has other tabs. This one here is a traffic tab, and it actually uses Waze maps. What's cool about that is I can see if there's any traffic incidents very quickly on this tablet as I'm heading out to work. I've also got a climate tab set up. Now this is all in Home Assistant, and it interfaces with a ton of different things. I did an ecobee video to talk about how this interfaces with ecobee, which has sensors all over my house. Those sensors each detect the temperature in a different room. So if I have a computer running in one room that's super hot, then this will show up and show me that that room is typically warmer. And I can actually click on that and I can get the history of that room and see, like, how is it trending? I've got a system monitor tab, which monitors all of the computers that are running this system and the Raspberry Pi, things like the speeds and so on. It also monitors my networking. So if I have any issues, I have a very quick way to get a nice visual diagnostic of how the house is doing. This right here is what's called backend. And one of the things that fully Kiosk Browser does is it allows you to have a screensaver. And what that means, if I was to walk away from this, I can have another application, a website, photos, launch, and I can do a slideshow. And so I thought that was really powerful. Backend is really cool because not only does it do the photo slideshow, but it'll do things like put the time, the date, and the weather on top of it. And if you have a family calendar or something like a Google Calendar or a Microsoft Calendar, you can have that information shown as well. Right now I'm pulling an RSS feed from Hackaday, so I actually get some news off of this. And again, I can set this as my screensaver. I've chosen not to for this, and I'll show you why. When I step away from the tablet and it doesn't detect any motion on the camera, it will actually power the machine down. This is one of the really big benefits of fully Kiosk Browser is it has the ability to control the tablet. Fully Kiosk allows me to easily control the screen so that it turns off. And then when I walk up to it and the camera detects motion in front of it, which is going through this here, the tablet pops right back up, which is really handy. The other thing fully Kiosk does is I can actually lock the tablet out so that, say, my daughter can't get to it by having a PIN code on it. I can do things like remotely control the tablet. When I talk about the software aspect, I'll talk about alternatives to this if you want just a kiosk. One downside that I have is because I chose an Amazon Fire device, while it gave me a super great price at $160 for a 10-inch tablet, I do have the Fire OS on there, and it's very locked down. It doesn't really play well with fully Kiosk Browser. And so there's a couple of things such as rendering animated backgrounds and such that don't work in this scenario. I just wanted you to be aware of that before you went down this path that I did and ended up hitting that. Outside of that, for static page displays or rendering Home Assistant, it's worked really well for me. The final thing I want to talk about with this setup is the mount itself. The mount itself came from a website, and it's actually a 3D printed mount. The thing about it is it's very easy to pop the front of this off here. And now you can see the tablet here is just simply pressed into here. There is the option of getting a cable that is a right angle USB-C or USB-B cable that's very low profile, and that's how it hides the power cable, wraps it around the back. On the 3D printed mount here, there's a channel for this to go into, and then I already had a hole in my wall that was running to a 5-volt 1-amp power supply. It's not a lot of power for a tablet, and this is one of the other reasons that I need to keep this powered off. If you had to though, you could run it down to a power system like this. When I talk about the tablet mount options, I'll talk about a mounting company that makes a really cool power adapter that'll get you to AC power so that you can have more power to your tablet. You can see here that I mounted this horizontally, but if I wanted to mount it vertically, it actually has the mount holes ready to go. The front of this and the top is very obviously 3D printed. The finish on the face of this is very well done. They also have the camera hole cut out, and they have holes on the side so you can access power and volume buttons. So you still have full control of your tablet if you need it. In the end, it ends up being a very stable, very professional, and very solid feeling mount. I'm very happy with it. So why mount a tablet onto your wall? There's a lot of videos that have done a lot of takes on this, and here's a quick list that I came up with. Music control is a big one. If you have Sonos or a whole home audio, or if you have a Bluetooth speaker, this gives you a way to send your audio to it. Baby monitor is one that we're using ours for, and this has been super popular. We can have our daughter's camera up on the wall at any time, and when we walk by, we can make sure she's okay. Security camera monitor, you can monitor other security cameras. Again, if you have it in a communal space, it's very handy and very easy to use. Recipes is handy if you have it near a kitchen. You can also see who's at the door if you have a smart doorbell. You can do a quick video call if you have any kind of video chatting service, something like Skype or whatever, you want to do a quick video call, then you can just simply walk up because you have access to both the camera and the speaker and the microphone on the tablet. I did a video talking about how to automate your 3D printer, and I found, talked a little bit about 3D printer monitoring and knowing where your 3D prints are when they're done, or if you're actually printing in midair. So that's something you could have that up on the monitor. Voice assistant interactions, based on what branded tablet you have, what integrations you have installed, you can use those voice assistants to actually do any of those types of tasks via voice. And then finally, the whole concept of family and friends having access to those applications. If a friend is staying at the house and wants to have access to my security cameras, it's kind of cool to have something simple like this for them to use. Okay, what I'm going to do now is walk through tablet choices. And I'll go pretty fast on this, but I just want to talk about some of the key things to look for. So here's the Fire HD 10 I got, and the main thing about this one is the browser that's built in the Fire HD 10 is updated with the OS. This is a browser component, not actually Silk browser. So it took a little bit to get the Google Play Store on here, which I needed for some of the apps I wanted, like Home Assistant itself. But that really didn't require unlocking the device or anything, but it did require some hoops to jump through versus stock Android. That being said, on the plus side, you can see that if you get it without special offers, which means no ads, then you get it for a pretty decent price of about $165 US. Now, if you say with special offers, you'll see that price drop, but the problem here is they're going to lock ads onto the device. Now, it's no problem if you're getting it just as a reader or consumption device based on how you feel about ads, but if you're doing it for a home automation tablet, you don't want an ad displayed all the time. So it's probably worth it to spend a little bit more and get the ad-free version. The Samsung Galaxy Tab A, the reason this is a big deal, this scenario here, is when we look at the cases, many of the cases support this tablet here. It's a very popular tablet to be supported, but you're going to see that it's going to cost a bit more. It's $229 for the same thing, 10-inch screen size. That being said, you would have a more of a stock Android experience. You'd have the Google Play Store right off the bat, and you'd probably get a bit better support for things like the rendering engine and such. Apple iPads are very popular, especially if you're in the Apple ecosystem, and especially the HomeKit ecosystem. Then you're probably going to want to look at an Apple setup. You're going to spend a bit more. You're going to have the Apple Premium there. There are cases that are specific for the iPad that have the Lightning connectors and all that. So something to consider. And you see you're going to jump up to about $400 for a 10-inch iPad unless you get a used one. I looked at the Surfaces, and the thing about Surface is you would want a tablet. They do make cases for them, but you'd want one that had a pretty standard power setup. So the Surface 3, you'd be looking at a used one. The newer Surfaces can be charged with USB-C, but keep in mind you have to push that much power into the wall setup that you're doing to charge them. This is a different way to go. This is a Dell Venue 11. This is another 10-inch screen, and we're looking at 120 for this one. So just depending on what ecosystem you're comfortable with and what you're comfortable with running. The nice thing about running a tablet like this is it's very easy to have a full screen browser. It's very easy to full screen Chrome or Edge or whatever, and then run your home automation setup from there. But it is a bit harder to find cases for them. You might have to get something a little bit more custom, or maybe a bit more generic actually, that can hold any tablet. So you may not get as clean of a look. This is a 10-inch, I searched for like a cheap random Android tablet, because Android tablets can be got for quite a bit lower. But the thing I want to point out here is when you scroll down and you look at the resolution on this tablet, you're going to see that you get this at a cost, and the cost is a 1280 by 800 resolution. This can be very frustrating on a home wall system, because what happens is you're not going to be able to render all of the home automation stuff. The browser will cut off at the bottom. And the problem with the screen that you have in your house is you want to look at it and have all your data on screen. You don't want to have to scroll. So watch out for your resolutions. 1900 by 12 or 1920 by 1200 here. This is a bit of a better version of the tablet, and probably something I'd look closer at. Okay, now that we've talked about the tablets, let's talk about the mounts that get them on the wall. We'll start out with Smarthome mount, which is the one that I actually chose. And this one here is the 3D printed mounts. They're very inexpensive, you'll see. These are the mounts without any of the transformers to change the power down from, let's say, 12 volts, 24 volts, and so on. Or if you've got like a USB cable that you need for them, it doesn't include that either. To get the cable, it goes up to, I think I ended up spending about $45. So I'll show you the cables here in a sec. But this is what it looks like on the back. This is the cable coming in. It's run through the 3D print. And you can see the ability to mount it in either direction with these mounts. These are probably some of the least expensive mounts that I've seen. And then here's the cables. They have 90-degree ends on them, which is really handy. I've heard you can get these cables a little bit less expensive on AliExpress, but it's kind of nice to order it just together. And a lot of these are available also on Amazon. This one here is called Eyewall Dock, and Eyewall Dock is iPad only mounts. They're very, very slick. You can see here the tablet can just be pulled right off the mount and docked right in. I really like that because it's kind of a cool concept of not only is it a wall controller, but if you want to go take the iPad and use it or read, then it's not just a dedicated system there. It's almost like that's where it charges. I think that's a cool scenario. It's not as clean in some ways, and the mounting for it is you need a lot larger hole. You'll see the hole here goes almost the entire tablet, versus the last mount I showed it, you can do it in a very small hole that you can fit a USB-C through. So that all being said, getting the tablet out looks like it's really easy. And if you're in the iPad ecosystem and HomeKit, this is a cool way to go. Lux mounts is a very different way to go in that you don't have to cut any holes in your wall. The way this works here, you can see this is just a normal light switch. And the Lux mount mounts on top of the light switch and then mounts the tablet over on the side here. Lux mounts are ideally made, I believe, for the 7-inch Fires, which are, I think, $30 to $50. So this is a very inexpensive way to go. The cable can be a little bit unsightly. Here he's showing it mounted off of, instead of a light switch, off of a power port. That's cool, but most of my power plugs are pretty low on my wall. So you'd want a power plug that was a bit higher up, maybe in the kitchen or something. But a very sleek way to go outside of the power cable. You can see he's got, let's see here. Yeah, typically he runs it off a light switch and it just runs down, but there's like a kitchen setup over a counter. So that is called Lux Mounts at luxmounts.com. Vitabox is cool. If you go browse by tablet, you can see they have iPad, Galaxy. They also have Surface and Fire tablets. And they have quite a variety. This had the widest variety of tablets. Now, this is not necessarily a wall mount company. This is more of a kiosk company. But as part of that, they do have wall mounts available. A lot of the power solutions they choose, they are all, let's see if I can bring them up real quick. Yeah, they're all power over Ethernet solutions. So if you have power over Ethernet, this is a really slick way to go. If you don't, though, then it's something where you're going to be running something through your walls. But their tablet mounts are just really cool. Now, this one here is makesbymike.com, and Makes by Mike might be the way I would go in the future. This is probably the way I wish I'd gone, and I'll tell you why. The products here, the mounts are pretty straightforward. The pricing is pretty competitive with the initial mounts I showed you. The nice thing about this is when you get to these choices, you get to the power transformers, and he has 120 and 240 volt AC converters. Now, this would be really, really cool because you could plug right into mains power and pull it down to 5 volts for your tablet. And that's just a really nice way to go because you're going to get a lot of wattage. You're probably going to be able to get rapid charging on your tablet if you need it. You don't have to worry about running any low voltage wiring through your setup. If you do want to go low voltage, he has all of those options available. So for all the power options he had available, which is really the harder thing for me, and then he has fairly slick looking mounts also in black and white here. I think this might have been the way I'd go in the future. Now, if you want a more premium look, Vitamount might be where you start, and you just figure out your power options from there. Okay, now let's talk about software. This here is the remote admin on fully Kiosk Browser, and this is the software that I use. One of the things I really like, besides the motion detection I showed earlier, is that this remote admin gives me full access to the browser, the hardware, and the ability to do things like turn off the screen, get details about it, and actually fully control any of the settings that I have here. Fully Kiosk has everything from browser settings. It's very easy to use here. It's got things for a launcher, so if you want to have a launcher that can launch other things and actually have it locked down so it can only launch, let's say, your security software or your home page. It's got the screensaver that I talked about, motion detection. Kiosk mode locks it down and has the pin code. The remote admin that we're using here. And then it's also got stuff like alerts if the device is actually picked up and moved. You can report sensor data. You can use MQTT. There's quite a few things here. Let's kind of scroll through just to give you an idea of some of these settings that are available. Now, every time you see plus in parentheses, that's a plus feature. You can try it out for free, but what you're going to have to do if you want to have it without a watermark on the screen is you have to pay for the license. The license is about $8 US per device, and is a per device license. This next one doesn't require a license at all. This is called wallpanel. It's actually free in the Google Play Store, and it's another full screen browser. It has the ability to wake the tablet up based on motion on the camera. It can also do facial detection off the camera, which is kind of cool. So if you don't want your blinds or your cat waking up your tablet, you can use facial detection, which is kind of slick. It's not only free, but open source, so you can actually compile the APK yourself and sideload it if you wish. It's got abilities for screensavers and turning the monitor off. You can expose the camera to something like Home Assistant if you want to use it as a security system. It has the built-in text-to-speech as well, so you can use either MQTT or HTTP, and you can send, let's say, a voice prompt to your tablet. So if you want to say, like, do a home announcement or something, then the tablet can announce that based on what you send to it. Overall, I think it's a really slick feature-packed system, and of course, free is a hard price to beat. So it's something worth giving a try if you're on an Android tablet. And again, this is called wallpanel. This next one is called Home Habit, and what I like about this one is it actually plugs into several different home automation systems. This is what it looks like, and I thought this was a really beautiful look. It's got transparent tiles, but you can set them to not be transparent if you want. And then basically you pick out the controls for what you want for each thing. Say it's a light control or a camera, or if you want to link to another application even. Here I'm going to show you how the actual grids get put together, because I thought it was kind of fascinating how they did this. What I've done is added basically a grid piece here, and then I'm going to position and size it. When I hit plus, I get two different options. I can scan based on controls, so I can actually build this out by what controls I want where, or I can actually select things I have in my home automation system, and then it will help me build out the control. I'll show that entire flow just so that you get a feel for how this application works, because I thought it was kind of unique, and it's probably one of the more compelling ones, I think, if you want something that you actually want to have full control over everything. For me on Home Assistant, I already had basically a wall dashboard built out, so this wasn't as interesting to me yet, but it might be something I'll look at in the future. Here I've shown that I've got a humidity sensor, and I'm showing things like the ability to control if it's over a certain amount, then I can have it set to a certain color. So I can say if it's over 50% humidity, I want it to be red. Another thing I'll show is customizing the color schemes for, let's say, the lights. So that if you have RGB lights and you want to basically hit one button and have them change a different color, then it has a control just for that. And this is what that looks like. The developer has been really responsive. I looked at the reviews of these apps to kind of get a feel for them. And one thing that really impressed me was the developer of this one on the Android ecosystem was incredibly responsive to all the feedback. This last one I want to talk about is called Tileboard, and this is another Home Assistant specific one. The reason I mention it is when I was researching for this video, I kept seeing this UI and I couldn't understand where it comes from. It actually installs on Home Assistant, and it serves up a different version of the HTML. It's designed to be very easy to configure once you have it up and running, and you can see that you get some very unique looks on it. This video has already gone longer than I intended, so I'm going to cut it short here. If you have any questions or have other suggestions that I missed, please put them in the comments below. I want to thank you for watching. I'm Joe Farrow with Geek Toolkit. Until next video, please keep making, please commenting, and let me know what I can help with. Thanks a lot.